Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Welcome to Broadscast.
Hello, Jackie McDougall.
Hello, Kim Goldman. So you always do that Scottish. How do I do Goldman then? Like a New York
Goldman. I don't know. Nothing.
Hey, Kim Goldman. See, I got nothing. Anyway,
Is that an old Jewish guy?
Well, I was trying something. Hey, so welcome to Broadscast. She's Kim Goldman. I'm Jackie McDougall. And we've got a fun show today. Nicole Feliciano. Oh. What an awesome. See, I want that to be my last name.
When you say Nicole Feliciano.
See, but I don't know. You get to a certain, you could be offensive, Kim. I don't know. It could offend people.
What?
Well, what would you do if the person was Asian?
I'm pretty sure Feliciano is not Asian.
I know, but I'm just saying, what if it were, my point is, people say my name with an accent, right? My Scottish accent. Yeah. But and then you go
I
Italian
cannot pronounce
people...
Asian last names, so I'm sure I'm offending them anyway because I cannot pronounce it to begin with.
Chang is a little much for you.
Chen, Choi, I can do those, but I don't really do it. Feliciano, you say it with like an Italian.
But it just sounds so festive, doesn't it? Anyway, let's get to that.
Wow, so now she's calling me offensive.
I'm just saying I find it interesting because people do use they say my last name with a Scottish accent, which I don't mind, of course, but
plus because it's not your. I mean, it's just
it's my married name,
it's your married name.
Right? Morgan was just so
Morgan.
Although, growing up in Boston, it was Morgan.
Yeah.
Hey, Morgan. Anyway, Nicole is the founder and CEO of Momtrends Media, and she has just released her book, Mom Boss, Balancing Entrepreneurship, Kids, and Success. So I'm really excited to talk to her today.
Sweet.
So she'll be on in just a bit. In the meantime, Kim.
What, Jackie?
We've got other things to deal with.
And now, Broad Topics.
Like Broad Topics. Here we go. Hey, so I was checking out with our friends at bustle.com. This sister, all right, a woman's getting married. She has two sisters. One of them offers her $10,000 to be the maid of honor and cut their other sister out of the role. $10,000 to be the maid of honor.
Okay, hold on. So Becky's getting married. Becky has two sisters, right?
Yep.
Are both sisters in the wedding to begin with?
Let's see.
So I'm just trying to understand. So
she has two sisters, 20-year-old younger one she's close with, and a 31-year-old she's not close with. In fact, she and her younger sister haven't gotten along with the older one as far back as childhood. This all happened on Reddit. Which is
the 31-year-old is offering the bride $10,000 for her to be the maid of honor?
Yeah, she says, my oldest sister offered me $10,000 to ask her to be my MOH, maid of honor, instead of my younger sister. My older sister is a terrible person and we aren't close. It's a lot of money for my fiance and me, but it's also hopefully my only wedding day. I don't know what to do.
Oh.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
We could spend some time dissecting this.
But the people, of course, on Reddit, which is funny because I've never really been a Reddit person.
You didn't read it on Reddit?
I didn't read it on Reddit.
You didn't read it?
So, a lot are telling her to dismiss the offer. Others are offering her ideas how to reconcile the situation. And others are like, just take the money.
And then what?
And then not make her and not make her the maid of honor at the last second. That's so bad. In order to clarify the situation for people offering advice.
Something.
Oh, she wrote a second comment. Go ahead, Kim.
There's a bit of a red flag when the one sister is trying to pay off. I mean, that's bad in and of itself.
Yeah.
That's toxic. Why do you want all that angst on your wedding day?
But but the funny thing is she's got to be loaded because, and I love my sisters. I have 5 of them. I love my friends. So no one take this personally. But why would you go out of your way to be a maid of honor? It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
You know,
this is a control thing. This is a power trip.
Totally.
So that's why I'm saying, forget it. It's toxic. I'm always like, oh, if you don't need me, if you need someone else, I'm totally fine with it. I know you love me. I'll be fine over here, just sitting in the pew.
Oh, and you know what? Here's the thing: the older sister, because she wrote a second post just to clarify things. It's getting deeper and more awesome. So the older sister was always daddy's little girl. So when he died, he actually left this, she's calling her Mary, the bulk of his estate. So she's flashing about town with the cash, and her sister and she have been struggling to help their ailing mother get by. So
So the older sister is bragging about all the money she has?
well, she's just like rolling in it and like living it. And so, she occasionally visits.
Maybe she's just using it as a tax break. Like maybe she needs to gift, to family. You can gift up to $10,000 to your family.
14.
Oh, no, well, you can gift money to your and not get taxed on
Exactly.
it. Maybe it's just all a cover up. Maybe it's a ruse.
Yeah. To further clarify the situation, she also commented the total cost of their reception is $100 as it will be a potluck in the park. They wouldn't even be using the money for the wedding. Wow. So, yeah.
The plot thickens.
Right?
I would not do it.
Did you have any,
For the
like
record.
when you got married?
Yes.
Yes, what?
I did have some of that stuff going on. I
Really?
didn't have anybody offer me any money, but I did have. It's rough. Like conflict. You mean tension around who? Yeah, because I did not want a big wedding. I wanted. I just wanted a couple of people standing up, and then it comes to the obligatory invites and the obligatory people that you need to honor and stuff like that. And I really resisted. But then at the end of the day, I kind of relinquished control over some of that because what's the big deal? I mean, at some point, what's an extra person or two if it means not having hurt feelings and relationships burned for years? But as I've gotten older, I don't subscribe to that anymore. But yeah, I had that.
It's funny because I think that there are a lot of traditions, like old school wedding, things that you'd follow, but yet the way weddings are produced now are not necessarily, and they are produced, but they're not necessarily as traditional. So it's funny that how, like inviting back when, say, parents were throwing weddings, right? Parents were paying for them and all that. They would invite some friends because they wanted their friends, and sometimes their kids were much younger, when they got married. I was 31, so I wasn't. We were both established. We paid for our own wedding,
right?
And so, but at the same time, we had a couple tables of my parents' friends because that was just like customary. And I grew up with these people, and it was lovely to have them. But it used to be that, like, I'm paying for your wedding, I invite my friends, know. Right. And now there are just certain things. Some things have changed, but some things haven't.
Right.
And so I'm interested in all these family dynamics of like how the intersection of the obligation versus like breaking out of that.
I think as parents, I've learned it. We have one mutual friend that this always was a conversation with us because our friend was notorious for inviting every single kid in the classroom to every single birthday party because she wanted anyone to feel left out, and she felt very obligated to do that. And I never subscribed to that, partly because I don't have the cash to support all of those obligatory invites. But I got to a point where if I'm going to celebrate something, I'm going to open up my wallet to support the cost behind celebrating something. I want to make it a day connecting with people that I care about, and that I know their first name, I know where they live, I know not intimate, but like personal details about them that proves that I have a personal relationship. Right. And so I teach that to my son. So when we do birthday parties, and he only invites kids that he's close with. When my wedding, my dad and my stepmom, of course, put money and helped pay for my wedding, but that was kind of a thing. Like, I don't want to invite their friends who didn't know where I live, that didn't even know my spouse's name, that knew nothing about me. And I said to my dad, I was like, free yourself up from that. Like, it's okay. I mean, if people that are in your life don't know things about the people they're coming to celebrate, then why do they want to come so badly? Like my son's bar mitzvah, we were putting together a list, and it was not hard actually to put together a list.
It's like that's throwing a wedding right there.
And it is, but the criteria was my son had to have personal and autonomous relationships with the people that were coming. There's 2 people, I think, 3 people that my dad and Patty have grown up with, or that know I know them, that they're all grandparents now. Those were the only exceptions. Everybody else, my son has a personal relationship with because it's his day. And that whole obligatory thing, I just feel like, just let yourself go and not get so caught up in that. It's exhausting.
Do you think that age has something to do with it? Because, I don't even know what the average age is for someone to get married, but, often in their 20s, or you were in your 20s, right?
I was turning 30.
So you were in your 20s.
2 months from turning 30. Yeah, same thing.
But, what we feel like we have to do to please people isn't necessarily how we feel at 45.
I had that age. I did not care. I mean,
really?
Mm-mm.
You're a better person than I am.
No, it's not a better. It was just I didn't have time. I didn't have time for it. I definitely have a people pleasing personality. But when I'm footing the bill, it doesn't get to me as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't get to me.
I think when you are footing the bill, you can make all your own decisions.
Yeah.
You don't really need to listen to anybody. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with mom boss herself, Nicole Feliciano. We'll be right back.
Connect with the Broads on Facebook at facebook.com/broadscast.
Welcome back to Broadscast. So I'm very excited for our next guest because I think the whole girl boss, mom boss, everybody boss thing is such an awesome momentum for us. But let's just get to it. So Nicole Feliciano she started Momtrends, first of all, and now is the author of Mom Boss, Balancing and Entrepreneurship, Kids, and Success. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here today.
Did I say your name correctly?
Feliciano.
See, she said it like I did. Jackie was making fun of me earlier because I said Nicole Feliciano. Like I wanted to say it with a little zhazhazh.
You gotta throw yourself into it.
Yeah,
I know. It's so festive. I love it. I want to go to a Feliciano. So I know. It sounds like an awesome party or something, Anyway, welcome to the show. So let's go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about Momtrends for those who live under a rock.
So I love what you were saying about the whole entrepreneurial movement. And for me, it started out of complete necessity. I spent 10 years at Ralph Lauren, and I loved the job. It was amazing. I worked with Mr. Lauren himself. I traveled to fabulous cities. The clothes were glamorous, but the hours were horrendous. And there was really not a path that I could foresee staying on and having kids. The women who I knew who did reach senior level management, they had stay-at-home husbands, or they had 3 nannies that worked for them. So they had the 2 shifts during the day and then the weekend nanny. And I waited so long to get married and to find the person that I wanted to have children with that I really didn't want to farm it out. So I was in a place of wanting to have a career, wanting to be ambitious, but also trying to reinvent myself as well. And it just happened to coincide with the birth of blogging. In 2005, my first daughter was born, and I started working online for Time Out New York Kids and a couple other websites because they would really trust anybody to write online. They're like, it doesn't really matter. Just
nobody's reading it.
Yeah. And then in 2007, I started to see mom blogs come up. And I was like, I can definitely do this. And I have a voice that I didn't feel was represented. So I think that was really the key thing for me, was trying to I did something experiential, figured out the workplace. And then before I added myself into the mix, I knew what I wanted to talk about and the unique voice I wanted to have. So my viewpoint was always a stylish one. It wasn't my personal journey through motherhood. It was really solving problems for women who had a certain aesthetic and who lived their lives a certain way before they had kids, and to help them carry on with that. So, my nursery was part high-end from Oof, and it was part Target. So I was mixing and matching things the whole way along, and that's the way I lived my life, and I think a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to embrace that aesthetic, and over the years, we've really stayed true to that mission, finding things that help mom, that appeal to moms, sense of style, their sense of purpose. And I'm really happy the way that the company has grown and that the business has grown over the years. And we grew it into $1 million business. We now have 10 employees. In addition to the websites we manage, we have momtrends.com and theshoppingmama.com. We also do launch events for brands where we bring in influencers to partner with the brands. We have a big one coming up with VTech they're launching a new baby monitor, and we're going to have this huge nursery design challenge with them on Wednesday. And then we do influencer programming where brands hire us. We're working right now with Pirates Booty, and we then hire bloggers to work on these campaigns. So we have 3 different things we do. We're providing opportunities to tons of different women. We're creating content every day. So I feel like I'm just living this entrepreneurial dream in that my business has succeeded, but I'm also helping other women as well. So that around that same time is when the opportunity to write this book came up, and it seemed the perfect time to talk about it.
Hey, well, that sounds like a great marriage for Broadscast and you. Like, I feel like, oh, we could do some of those things.
Oh, yes, because we're so influential.
So one of the things, Nicole, that we talk about a lot on the show is like women having it all, and some people celebrating that, and myself putting 2 forks in my eyes going, oh, my God, I don't want it all. I'm exhausted. What is your take on that phrase of like women, women wanting it all? What does that mean to you?
I want really meaningful experiences from my work and my family. And to do that, I've given up a lot. So there have been a lot of sacrifices along the way of sleep would be the biggest one. And I would say my girl time is, it's negligible. If you don't work with me, or if you're not a runner, I probably won't see you if you're not in my core family group or working for my, for my company. So I do give up a lot, but I've gained so much from it that it makes sense for me. But you have to make sure that it makes sense, and you've got to make sure that your family and the other partners in your life are really buying into that as well. And I think that there's a lot of women who launch companies thinking they're going to do it on 5 or 10 hours a week, and they're deluding themselves.
Yes.
You can't get success doing it that way. You're going to frustrate yourself because you're not going to have enough time. You're going to frustrate your partner because you're certainly going to go over that 5 hours. It's just going to be 5 hours a week,
right.
And your kids and your partner are going to get frustrated. So you got to set out really clear parameters of what it's going to look like when you become an entrepreneur.
So in my everyday life, I work with counselors who do provide mental health for teenagers, and we talk a lot about like balance and self-care and what we do to keep things fresh, so that when we show up to be our best selves every day, that we are a version of our best selves that can then go on to do great things with our kids.
I think Kim's looking at me in my sweats right now and just giving me the nod.
I haven't brushed my hair
little
today.
self-care,
I'm
Jackie.
No, but do you subscribe to that concept that you need to do things outside of your work or motherhood that allows you to be your best self? Like, what do you, besides running, or maybe that is what you do, like, what do you do for your self-care to keep yourself balanced?
So I have 2 fabulous women that I run with, one on Tuesday and another one on Sunday, and it's my therapy. They are like clockwork. These women are so reliable. They're both working moms. They each one has 3 kids, one has 2. They're in the soup, as I am right now, of this, juicy time of motherhood. The kids are amazing. The juicy time of work where it's all, happening and exciting. And I mean, we can run for 8 miles without running out of things to talk about, which is amazing. And then
you can run for 8 miles while talking, which is amazing in
I
itself.
can't walk up my stairs without being winded.
But I'm not a crafter. I'm not, I don't sit still well. So this kind of kinetic energy for me is how I release things. And then I'm a huge reader of fiction and some nonfiction, but I love books. And I currently have a book I'm reading with my 11-year-old, a book I'm reading with my 8-year-old, and then a book that I'm reading on my own. So I always have 3 books kind of cooking. And with a great author, I can get in a book in seconds and be swept away into that world and that narrative, forgetting about all my own problems. So, I'm reading American Girl Stories right now with my 8-year-old, and I'm living in the 1960s. And I just, books do that to me. They completely transport me. And it can only be, sometimes it's 15 minutes that I have to read, but it totally works.
That's great. Kim and I talk about this regularly because I'm an audiobook person. So I will listen to a book while walking the dogs or in the car or something, because my books have become coasters.
Oh my God. If I read with my son right now, we'd be doing the Revenge of Darth Vader or something. I can't even keep track of it.
Right. And even my daughter, I'm like, I'll read the American Girl. She wants to read the behind the scenes of Star Wars characters, just like that. I'm like, no. So, you started Momtrends at a time where blogging was hot and, mom blogging and things have really shifted in that industry. And so, I think, first of all, it's brilliant that it wasn't necessarily just your personal journey, because I think when you include the reader in what you're providing, if I'm saying it correctly, like, so if you're just writing about yourself and they're kind of consuming your story, that has an end date, I think. But when you're giving them resources and you're giving them such
rich material,
and value to help them enrich their own lives, I think that's great. But you didn't, so that alone you'd still be successful, but that wasn't enough. You had to go out and write a book, which, Kim, we talk about that a lot on the show too. Kim's written a couple books, and like, I've seen the stress that happens. So how did you go from like, hey, this is awesome, successful business, now I'm going to throw in a book into the mix?
I worked with a great publishing house called Mango Publishing, and they have really focused on telling influencer stories, or giving influencers the capacity to tell a story through a book. So it was the best case scenario that I didn't have to pitch a book, I didn't have to write a proposal, and they really worked with me. They found me and they said, well, we think you've got a story to tell about how you've grown this business, and they let me tell the story my way. I would say the best thing that happened was they had me nail down the table of contents before I got going full bore. And that was great, because I spent so much time on the table of contents, and the 12 things that I felt like any small business person needed to think about before they went into launch mode. And then I had this framework ready to go, and I was so excited about the framework that really propelled me forward. And then I talked with 100 different CEOs, 100 different founders, and hearing other people's stories. I mean, you guys live this, doing these interviews, it totally gets you juiced. Mm-hmm. You're like, that is such a good idea. I love how you did that. And then incorporating, I had the framework, and then I had all this meat from their stories that I got to work into the book. So it was a really amazing 6 months of the writing, interviewing process. And it was great because I had sort of hit a plateau. I'd hit that 10-year mark with my business. I'd hired employees. We now have an office space. Financially, it's doing really well. And it's just given me that push for, I think, who knows if it'll be through the next decade, but it's certainly given me that push and revitalized how I thought about the business and how I've thought about the next generation of entrepreneurs that I can help. And it's a really exciting time. And it's also propelling me to travel, which I've started doing more that the kids have gotten older. I've done some more travel for events and for conferences, but we're going to be going to about 20 cities over the next year. And I'm really excited to talk to other entrepreneurs, talk to members of the Momtrends community who, maybe they're not vocal on social media, but maybe when you meet them in person, they're the people reading, taking it all in. And I'm just super energized to take this new movement and moment and spread it out, get as much out of it as I can. And then, next year we'll be looking at the next project. But Mom Boss was a great catalyst for examining what we've done so far and looking to the future.
So where did the whole idea for Mom Boss, I mean, obviously your business, but how did you kind of come up with the name Mom Boss and know that's, because that, just those two words together sends a very strong idea of what this book is about. Like, where did you come up with that?
Well, I would say the editors came up with the title for the book. They had been working with Sophia Amorosa, the author of Girl Boss, and they got her blessing on the title Mom Boss, and they came to me with the title. So I cannot lay claim to that one. I do love the title. They wanted to make sure that I was all in with the title, and I thought it was a great one. And I also love that Amy Poehler quote that I opened the book with, that I've never apologized for being bossy. I was a bossy little girl. I was always taking charge of games. I've been a bossy teenager. I worked my entire life, and I own my bossiness, and I want other women to own it as well. It's not something that you should be embarrassed about. Being a strong, independent person who can make decisions, I think, is a fabulous thing. And I also, doing research for the book for Mom Boss, I found out that Brooklyn has the highest percentage, where I am right now, where I'm recording this, of female startups in the entire country. So I'm in this community that's so supportive, and it's bubbling up with startups, and it feels like the exact right place to be.
It's amazing when you're in a place in your life and you kind of feel that outside, that other people are in that same place. It's like the momentum just carries all of you together, you know? I love it. So let's go back to that, because we've talked about this, I think, in the past, but the whole bossy term and versus leader. So do you think that people see women or girls who have leadership skills as bossy, or is bossy a totally different, like, because I see bossy, I think there are leaders, and then I think there are bossy people, like, and they're not necessarily the same. So, you know, little girls who are like, this is what I've decided this, and we could do this and whatever. That's leadership. But like the one who's constantly never listening to other people and just, you know, I find that to be a totally different situation.
I do. I see where you're going, and I think that it's taking back that term, because I do think that the little girls like me who were growing up and who had very clear ideas, and the only way they could make themselves heard was by being very assertive. And so they got coined, you know, they got tagged with the term bossy, and maybe their teachers didn't like it, or maybe other adults didn't like it, because these girls were rather headstrong, opinionated, and they were leading. So I do feel like when I was growing up, it was synonymous with a girl who knew her opinions and wasn't afraid to share them, which is why I think that I'm happy to own, if you're just bossing people around without taking into consideration the results of your action or the results of your leadership. I think that, you know, I tend to see more businesses run into the ground by men doing that than I do with women. So I wish there were a pejorative term for men who make decisions not based off of sound reason.
Oh, we have that term. We just can't say it on the air.
I can't say it on air.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you know, I do love that
Mom
you're taking...
assertive doesn't flow as nicely as mom bossy. But I mean, we kind of come up with that with the term broad for our show, Broadscast. And so we went around and asked tons of women, like, what does a broad mean to you? And when we talk to people about it, they say, isn't broad a negative
It's
term?
mostly men who say
mostly
that.
Men and we sort of feel the same way about broad, that, you know, it's about taking your voice and owning your voice and being unapologetic for the things that you feel, and, you know, being respectful, of course, and tactful, but just owning who you are, and kind of, you know, with a snap and with a head bob, you know.
I always think, when I think of broads, I think of somebody with thick skin, somebody who can take a joke and somebody who can also take criticism, and they work that into who they are. And I think I'd be happy to be called a broad. A broad's a tough little cookie.
So we're going to cut that and use that as a little promo right there, Nicole. But, you know, the same thing with bossy. I think that you're right. Like, you know, whether it's respectfully done or not, you know, not with respect, when somebody, and often men, call a woman bossy, we could sit here and be victims of that word, or we can reinvent that word. We can take it back and and I love the mom boss thing, because it just brings to my mind somebody who's making it happen in all areas of her life.
Exactly. And the book really, there's chapters and chapters about the business smarts that you need and the things you need to do to get ready to launch and to make your business profitable. But there is also a lot of the softer side that we touch on, like getting your partner to buy in, getting your support system set up. How do you manage that call from the school nurse when you've got to come get your child because they've got lice and they've got to get it out immediately, or if they've got the fever? You know, who is going to be the person, and how do you work out owning your business and owning your success and the goals you put out there with family? And I think this book specifically is for women who got tired of asking for permission to have the family life that they wanted to have. There's so many women who I know, there was a woman who just left her company because she was trying to get permission to go to her kindergartner's graduation. She put in for it 3 months ahead of time, and it was finally the week before his graduation. Her boss says, yeah, you can have that afternoon off. And it was just infuriating for her that she couldn't map out a party for him and invite her family, because she didn't know if she was going to be able to go till the last minute. You know, a mom boss puts that on their calendar. She builds in that she's going to, you know, work extra hard on the days leading up to that. And she's going to have a game plan. So when she's gone, that's going to be covered. And women, there's so much possibility and ambition and great ideas that they have, but they just want to be able to do it on their own terms. And I think they want to be able to do it on their own terms financially as well. When I was researching the book, I found out that female startups get 18 cents on the dollar of the startup money that's going out there. So women aren't looking for these big investments. They believe in themselves. They're willing to start small and grow incrementally so that they're not beholden to other people, and they don't have to, report into shareholders or report into even an angel board of investors. They're growing at the just right pace for them. And some people may see that as a detractor that, well, we've got so much less money to start with. But I think it's a great way to get going in the early stages, because you have to make very careful decisions with your money. You've got to be creative about who you partner, you network with, and how you market. And I think that's how you build strong relationships. And it's also how you crystallize the vision for your vision for your brand.
Do you think, though, and I have two questions, and I'm going to ask this one first, though. Do you think that when you say that it's 18 cents on a dollar and you're celebrating that, I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, do women not think that their business has that much more value, that they shouldn't be asking for more than 18 cents on a dollar? Like, do you think, Jackie and I talk about a lot that when we downplay ourselves, we diminish our role, we diminish our level of success or the ability we can to succeed. So I'm hearing 18 cents going, well, girl, get more money. Like, why are you not putting more value in the product or the service that you have in order, and then demand a higher investment?
Well, I think it would be, especially if you're trying to do something with manufacturing and you need startup, then you're really hamstrung if you can't raise the funds. And I think that is when the 18 cents on the dollar is very challenging, when you've got to go out and raise money for your dream. If it's a tech company, if it's manufacturing, then you probably need a business coach to come in and help you get over that hump into fundraising, because I do think women are less comfortable asking for money. I hope that the next generation of girls, we're trying to teach our two daughters to negotiate already, and it has its pluses and minuses, believe me, when you're raising little negotiators.
Right. I always say that
sure.
Difficult daughters make amazing women.
There you go. But I do think if it is something that is going to be that you're trying to grow at a specific pace, it's very challenging to take outside money, because you're always beholden to the investor's pace and their expectation on the return on the investment. So if you're trying to grow something incrementally as your family is growing, as your kids are hitting plateaus, I would be looking very carefully at outside investment.
Yeah, I think that to be a true mom boss too, though, that you can't be beholden to all these other often men too in the investors. Like, we have to kind of be smart with our money. We have to come out of the gate with a lot of sweat equity, and just know that it's going to be time and effort, but not necessarily owe somebody else lots of money in return.
So, Nicole, I have a question for you. So everything is categorized as Momtrends, Mom Boss. Do you find that people that aren't moms can still benefit from the things that you share, like the single woman, the newly married woman, the entrepreneur that doesn't have the added struggle with having children at home?
There's so many great organizational tips, time-saving tips in there. And then on my website, on Momtrends, there's just fashion tips and beauty tips for anybody who's time-strapped, especially. And a lot of people who are just starting their careers post-college, they've got less time and money because sometimes they're working 2 jobs. So they can definitely benefit from a lot of things we're talking about as well. But I do feel that Momtrends has that specific angle of our hearts being pulled in 2 directions at one time. And when you are, fresh out of college, you've got that gift to throw yourself into your company solely. I throw my heart into 2 places, which makes it a unique challenge and one I would not change for the world.
So let's dive into the book a little bit. So what do you think are, as far as somebody wants to become an entrepreneur, maybe they're working at a job that's not so fulfilling, or they don't have the flexibility to be at that kindergarten graduation. Like, what is the first step, would you say, what would you tell that woman?
First step, you want to get your roadmap going of your countdown to launch. And I love the fact that you were thinking about this before you quit. And also, maternity leave is a fabulous time to be thinking about these things as well, when you've got a little bit of psychic space to think things through. But you're going to want it even a year out would be fabulous. I would love even more time, but make sure that you're starting to put away a nest egg, that you are starting to save some investment money. So you have a little bit of a cushion when you launch, because most likely you're not going to make money in that first year. So you want to be able to have a little bit of cushion. Start seeing if there's freelance work you can pick up, consulting work, so that when you do quit your day job and you're launching something else, you've got a little bit of money coming in as well. And then start working your network. This is another essential step before you launch. You want to start working your network and figure out who are the customers you're going to serve. Figure out the problem that you are going to solve. Every great business needs to be solving some sort of problem. And then from there, you've got those two first steps mastered. You're getting closer to countdown. The third thing you're really going to want to do is figure out how you're going to become profitable. And there's a lot of worksheets in the book as well. So you're going to figure out how you're going to turn your idea into a profit, not sales, because anybody can sell $1 for 95 cents on the corner and they can have sales all day long, but you're going to want to figure out how to turn a profit. And that, you're going to work on some spreadsheets. Again, with your networking, you can go to somebody who's in the business and say you're developing a new line of baby bedding. You can say, okay, well, I'm planning on selling a sheet at $45, and you could go to somebody who's in the industry and they're going to say, no way, you're going to get pushed back at anything over 35, because then you have to go back and work through your projections as well. And then once you figured out how to make, what the timeline is going to be, what the product is going to look like, what your profit is going to be, then you're really going into motion and you're putting things, and then you start actually spending money on the business and investing. So that through those 4 steps. And so many new entrepreneurs want to start spending money as the first thing. I want a brand. I want to come up with a great name. I want to find my colors. And there's so much research for those first 3 steps of how are you going to do this time-wise? Who are you serving? And how are you going to make a profit that you should consider before you start spending money on branding and developing the product for the thing. So please, everyone, take those first 3 steps before you start spending your money.
So, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've seen a lot of success, somewhat successful websites or brands who stop focusing on the content and what they're selling and what their product is, and they start kind of spending a lot of money and time on this frou-frou stuff, like the new look and the new logo and the new this and the new that, and that's a huge mistake. So, what are some of the other mistakes people are making when they try to, become a mom boss?
Not getting their family to buy in as to what's going on and buying into their dream. I think that those conversations need to happen early on. And it may be sexist. Maybe the male entrepreneurs, the dad entrepreneurs don't feel that they have to get the family buy-in, but I do feel like a lot of the female entrepreneurs that I talked to, the ones that had success, had absolutely spelled out how ambitious they were, where they saw this company going, what the time commitment was going to look like, and how they needed help to solve the problems. And women we tend to be martyrs. We will take it all on. I will still do, make the homemade lunches, do the bake sales, on top of all the kids' activities, cook dinner, and launch a business. And then we don't understand why we're burnt out and exhausted.
Right.
So asking for help, I think, is one of the keys to success. And it's one of the things often mom bosses overlook. This weekend, my daughter was in a squash tournament, and I had volunteered to work the tournament. All the parents had to volunteer on Sunday. And I had a friend say, I know you're crazed right now. I have to go on Sunday anyhow because my daughter's playing a match on those days. Can I cover your volunteer segment? And a part of my brain said, oh, but I signed up and I haven't done my volunteer shift and I really should. And then my mom boss side of my brain said, you have a friend. She understands what you're going through. She is offering you help. It solves a problem. Just say yes, be grateful and gracious. And I did. And I thanked her profusely. And I felt like that little, that moment where a click went off, and it's okay to accept help from friends. And in some ways, you're doing that. They want to help. They want to feel good about helping you out.
Do you have a system in place or a suggestion for setting boundaries in terms of or goals or benchmarks in terms of what success is, so that you know when maybe to retire your idea if it hasn't met those benchmarks? Do you always revisit them? I mean, how do you, so that someone's not hammering away at something for 12 years and it's still not working?
We do. We have monthly check-ins. So my entire team, we have a monthly meeting. A lot of my employees are remote, so some of them fly in once a month for our meetings. So they come to New York for a couple days. Otherwise, they're based remotely or they take trains in. And we go over, we pour over the analytics for the last month, and we try to learn lessons as to what works and what isn't working. And that's also kind of my thick-skinned broadiness, is that even if it was an idea that I loved and it's just clearly not working, I'm the first one to say, okay, we've got to let this go and come up with something else. And it's fine to do that, but you've really got to look at the numbers and figure out what is working, what is not working, skim off the bottom and put something new at the top, and throw yourself into that new idea as well. So we're always analyzing. And then we have a big, 3 years ago, we started doing an offsite with my team, where we take three days. This year we went to the Canyon Ranch out in Arizona. We take 3 days and we think in 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals for the company. And we also think about if we've got an extra $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 to invest, where would we put it and how would we spend it? And those exercises I find are really helpful for steering the company. And then we do spend half a day on what didn't work, what can we cut out to make room for these other things that we're going to add. Because you just can't keep adding and adding and adding without subtracting. So we're always looking at things that we can let go of and replace.
It's interesting in the organization that I run, there's everyone's always looking to add more, and I'm like, can't I just be good at what I'm doing? Can't I just be excellent? And I mean, seriously, even when I look for funding for my organization, funders want new programs, they want it expanded, and I'm like, why can't we just celebrate? In my position, I do mental health, but like I love that you are looking ahead, Nicole, and trying to figure out new ways to expand and invest. But from an organization like mine, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. Status quo is good. Mediocre is good. I'm great in the mediocre. No, but at some point, like, I recognize the strength of my company is to be good where I'm at, and to broaden and stretch myself more would only set me up to fail right now. And so this is kind of what I'm saying in terms of hitting your goal, hitting your benchmark, making sure you're successful at what you set out to be.
Is that an issue with a lot of women trying to get kind of too big too fast and not really getting very good at what they're doing right at the place where they are?
Well, I have noticed that in digital media, there are a lot of people who got distracted by the new and the shiny when it comes to the new social media things that pop up. It was Vine at first, and then it was Periscope, and then it was Snapchat, and now it's Instagram Stories. And they got away from the core mission of what they were giving their community. At Momtrends, I've always known that keeping our home base vital and pretty and purposeful is the ultimate goal. We spent years ago time creating our mission statement, and it was really to help us come up editorial with things we could say yes or no to very easily. If it didn't fit this grid, we just said no to it and made it super easy to have the 4 things printed up on a wall. But we've also keep coming back to making sure that our home base, that momtrends.com, is a delight for the readers whenever they pop by. And of course, all of the extensions on social media should be exciting and they should look good. And we're not going to neglect them because they do bring in new traffic. But I do feel like making sure that how we started and what we provided the community at the beginning stays our strongest overall. And that's why I pay for an amazing editorial staff as opposed to, hiring people who are just in sales. About 30% of our payroll goes to the sales team and 70% goes to editorial. And I still think that is the exact right mix, that we are storytellers, that we are problem solvers. And if we get away from that mission, we're going to be doomed.
Right. I love that I think that that the whole concept of a mission, we have a mission statement for my organization too, and it's really easy to just be like, that's not mission centric, that's not mission focused. But I think we have that for Broadscast. We spent time writing that. I think it really helps kind of identify what your purpose is and what your quote mission is. But I think even bringing that into your personal life, we have that with my son and I, like what we stand for, what we believe in.
A family mission statement.
Family mission. And I think, people only think that needs to be in a business room, in a business office. But I kind of like that we carry that with us.
Do you follow something like that, Nicole, as far as, with your family, like you have your own family mission statement?
We do. Actually, we come up with a word of the year for the family that we try to use to energize us. This year, the word of the year was focus for the family. For the kids, it was about not being distracted when they're learning something. It could be something like piano or schoolwork or even a sport, but trying to do one thing at a time and really being in the moment. And I think that it carried over with my husband and I as well. We are definitely all unplugged at the dinner table. We dinner together 6 days a week. And as crazy as our schedules get, we just make sure that stays true to us. And I love the idea of a family mission statement because it would really say, when you're adding something else to the family calendar, that you can say, like, does this fit our core family values?
Right.
I love that idea.
And not getting distracted by, all the extra noise, So for all of us, we get Mom Boss as a guide to start from, square one to become the entrepreneurs that we want to be and the moms we want to be. But what was your guide? What did you have? Because clearly you're brilliant. So like, how did you get there?
I will tell you, I am not brilliant.
You diminished yourself.
Yeah, we don't allow that here.
To say thank you.
Thank you. I would say what I was going to compliment myself. I do think I work harder than almost everyone I know. I am willing to, put in that extra hour when other people have gone to bed. I am willing to re-edit something when somebody would say, "Oh, it's good enough." I'm willing to challenge an employee and try and get that extra 5% out of her that I know is there. I think that, I have that tenacity inside me. And I think it came from, I came from a family who believed in me, and I came from a family of entrepreneurs. And I was really lucky early on that, I had an older brother and my dad who just thought I could do anything and everything. And we're trying to give that to my girls as well. It makes me a little teary thinking about all the people that believed in me along the way. And that's completely made me who I am.
I mean, I think that's really important as far as building that ability and that thick skin as well. Because when you have a base, whether it's family, friends, whatever, that you believe that you matter, you believe that your opinions and your voice are important, then when you hear all the other stuff from outside people, it doesn't matter as much because those aren't the people who matter. And I think that's when I see it in social media for people who don't have that base at home or have a core group, that they get so wrapped up in what strangers and what others in social, whether they're social media friends or they're commenters, they get so wrapped up in what other people think about them. And how can you be successful then?
Yeah, I'm too busy creating and looking ahead to really look side to side too much. I remember I met Bethany Frankel a few times, the head of Skinny Girl Cocktails. And, she is abroad as well. And I remember talking to her once and I said, I love your tenacity. I think that you've gone after things and you made headway in the liquor industry where very few women have been able to make headway. Most of the companies are owned and started by male founders. And she said, "Nicole, I'm like an Olympic swimmer." She said, can't use all the expletives, but she said, "I'm blankety blank like Michael Phelps." She said, "I see the finish line and I want to hit that wall first. Don't blankety blank look to either side when you're swimming. You just got to keep looking ahead." And I love that. I mean, she is unapologetic about her success and for going for it. And sometimes when I feel distracted, when I'm seeing what, the great things that other people are creating and I'm trying to celebrate their moment and I want to celebrate their moment, but I also remember in my head that I got to be like Michael Phelps and remember where my wall is and focus on hitting it first.
Wow. Blankety blank, man.
but it actually makes me think like Bethany, you think about Real Housewives and all that. And some people go into these shows because they want to be famous and they want people to know who they are. And other people are like, I see an opportunity. If I do this and people know me and that gives me a platform to then move my business or move, my goals, whatever they may be.
I think 100% she had that idea before she went on that show. She
Yeah.
knew what she was going to do. Smart cookie.
Yeah.
She might have her detractors, but I am not one of them.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think that we need to celebrate that there is not one path to success.
I think we need to celebrate with some skinny girl.
Well, always. So just before we go, so what would you say, we talk about the support system at home and we talk about, having everybody on board. What would you say to single moms? Do you have any sort of tips in the book for single moms who don't necessarily have that support around them?
I definitely call out single moms a number of times in the book and say that they're going to have to rely more upon an entrepreneurial community to support them. And there are some great groups, specifically in New York. There is a lot of support for female entrepreneurs, and they understand that a lot of these are single women as well. And you're going to need a buy-in, a partner who may be a founder of a different company who can be your sounding board when times get tough. Should I make this investment? Somebody who's going through it. Not the exact same thing that you are, but you do want to be able to find not necessarily a mentor, but a sounding board who can understand what you're going through, and somebody that, as where I have a spouse, he's stuck with my story, and you want to be able to have that same thing with a partner who's going through the entrepreneurial journey as well. I think they need to have the same conversations with their support system. Maybe it's a grandmother who helps, maybe it's a sister who helps, maybe it's a childcare provider who helps, but they need to have that same frank conversation about the energy that they're going to be investing into this business and setting clear parameters as to, what the business is going to look like on family life. And I also believe in talking to kids, even when they're little, psychically, that, I am doing this for you so that you have more opportunities when you're older, so you can see a success story, especially if they're a mom of girls. But so you can see a success story in our family that may not have been there. And even if they're babies, I feel like it seeps into your brain. It seeps into the baby's brain of their being that this person is doing this for me, for my opportunities. And then for single moms, I think clicking that switch that when you are, it's even harder for them, that when you're with your family, really be with your family. And it may be a shorter, I remember reading an article that said even 15 minutes a day of one-on-one time with a child can create the familiar bonds that are necessary for brain development. But just make sure that 15 minutes, that half an hour that you're spending with your child is unplugged, focused, where it's recharging you and recharging them as well.
Right.
And I think that we sometimes forget to do that. And we think that it's kind of like working out. Like, I got to go do this for an hour and I don't have an hour. And then we come up with all these kinds of excuses when in actuality, even 5 minutes, even just take a second, to make those connections with the kids. Because I notice the difference when I am commuting and working for somebody else versus, producing and getting a show on the air nationally, like that my kids respond to my work very, very differently. They love that I do this. They love that, they hear the open of the show start and they're like, oh, we better be quiet. It doesn't always work, but I hope that not only am I doing this for them financially, but I'm doing this for them to teach them that what is your thing, what is your passion, and what is your, let the world know your voice, like find your platform.
Right.
And I think that your Mom Boss book is a perfect way, especially because Kim and I talk about this, like, tell me what to do. Like, I will work harder than anybody and smarter than anybody, but like, if you could spell it out for me so I could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, great, that'd be awesome. And that's what you're doing. And that's what I think will be so helpful for so many moms.
Well, I hope that we're inspiring a whole groundswell of mom bosses out there, women with great ideas. They've got the passion. They've got the ideas to see this through. And I cannot wait to see what the next few years bring in the new products, new services that are going to be out there.
Well, Nicole, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to go buy the book right now.
And an absolute pleasure talking with you, ladies.
And people can still find you at momtrends.com. And we'll put all the links on our website as well.
Thank you, guys. That was so much fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
She's just so smart. Nicole Feliciano, if you guys haven't picked up a copy of Mom Boss.
Feliciano.
Go do
you
it
gotta
now.
Say it like that.
We'll be right back.
Subscribe to Broadscast on iTunes.
All right, so that is it for us today.
Woohoo! We
Thanks
survived
so much for
another
listening.
day.
I know, right? Thanks, Nicole Feliciano, for being on our show and
Being
talking.
such a boss, mom boss.
I love
you the boss.
She is boss, and just so smart. I love having smart women on. I think September has been jam packed
with smart women.
with
Yeah.
smart. Sometimes I go back to my Boston accent with wicked smart women. So thank you so much for listening, and check us out on Facebook and all those other fun places. And we'll see you next time.
You are listening to Broadscast. For more from the Broads, head to broadscast.com.